Ableton tutorial. Nicholas there with you once again. Big shout out everyone who's getting involved on YouTube, liking, commenting, subscribing. The engagement really does help. Big shout out everyone who's sharing these videos on forums and with friends. It's awesome to see and hear how people are exploring these ideas in their own practice. And of course, huge shout out everyone getting involved and supporting on the Patreon. Patreon members, I just uploaded a modular synth sample pack using the Chaos Devices Odessa sort of variable fractal harmonic oscillator thing. Lots of weird drones, some kick drums, some percussion sounds, all sorts of stuff. And non-Patreon members, you can also access that in a sort of one-off thing that Patreon is trying. Yeah, link in the description below if you want to go and check that out. So, but let's dive into today. What are we looking at? Well, you read the description, you have ears, you can hear what's going on in the background. We're looking at Euclidean rhythms. What are they? How do they work? What do they do? How can we explore them in a musical context? So there's a few layers of stuff going on. We've got just a layer of effects like that. I'm going to press stop on that. We got sort of a stock drum beat using Ableton's technical glitch kit. That's at 120 BPM, sort of a halftime 4/4 thing. Let's press stop on this. And now we have two layers of Euclidean rhythms happening. That's one layer. And this is the other layer. And so today what we're going to do is unpack what a Euclidean rhythm is, a little bit about Ableton's rhythm, what do we call it? Rotating rhythm generator, and how we could use these, what we can explore musically with these things. So I'm going to keep the drum kit and the effects in there because I think that would be nice, but we're just going to delete everything else. Delete. And we're going to start from scratch. I have a new MIDI channel here. There's nothing on it apart from the rotating rhythm generator. Now we're going to look at exactly what this rhythm generator does. And I'm going to do that by exploring some things inside a drum rack. So we're going to go to instruments. We're going to bring in drum rack. We're actually going to turn this down because it might be quite loud. And I'm going to turn all of the different rhythms, different patterns off on the rhythm generator apart from rhythm number 1. I'm going to bring in just Ableton's kick drum synthesizer, simple kick drum. And we're going to make it nice and short so we can hear what's happening. Now, let's take a look. Let's take a look at some of these things that are happening inside the rotating rhythm generator. So essentially, we can send a note out, we can send velocity, we can change the length of that note, and we can change the subdivision here. So as you can see and hear at the moment, we have a 16th note subdivision. I can slow this down to be like an 8th note. Let's turn this up a little bit actually. An 8th note subdivision, a 6th note subdivision, and so forth. And it's just generating a MIDI note each time it does that. And that MIDI note is C1, which is why it's triggering the kick, because this particular button on the drum rack is C1. Now, let's put this back to 8th note subdivision, and let's look at what a Euclidean rhythm is. So what a Euclidean rhythm does, I'm going to turn this on, and you'll notice that immediately it did absolutely nothing. Now, what a Euclidean rhythm does is it divides according to this subdivision, and it says there's a number of steps, in this case 64 steps, and within those 64 steps we're going to have a number of fills or a number of events, and in this case 64 events, and these are going to be at 1/8 notes subdivisions. So for instance, let's change this to 4. You'll notice that immediately the number of events or fills goes down to 4, and it sounds kind of exactly the same. But if I bring this down to 3, there we go. We have a 4-step sequence, and inside those steps, 3 things are happening. I can turn this down to 2. So now we have a 4-step sequence, and inside that sequence, 1 event is happening, and we can bring that down to 1. Now, the important thing about the way that a Euclidean rhythm works is it divides this number of steps as evenly as possible. So what we saw there with 4 steps and going down from 4 to 3 to 2 to 1, that was not so noticeable. But if we bring this up to, let's say 7 steps and 7 here. Now we're back to just simple 8th note pulses. But if we bring this down to now the number of events down to 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you can see it's now a 7-step pattern, and 6 of those steps have an event on it. Now, see, these are not polyrhythms. It's not dividing 6 events evenly across the space of 7 as a polyrhythm would, or as a duplet or triplet would, or what with this septuplet in this case would. Rather, it's saying we have 7 events. With 7 steps, we want an event to happen exactly on a step. So let's bring this down to 5. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's dividing these 7 steps up with 5 events as evenly as possible. Let's bring that down to, for instance, 2. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it says we have two events happening inside the space of 7 steps, and we're going to arrange that as evenly as possible. Now, there was some research done, I think sometime around 2004, 2005, applying mathematics to music. People like to do that kind of thing. And what they found was that this idea of Euclidean rhythms generates a vast majority of sort of folk rhythms from drum circles, from gamelan music, all these kind of things. These kind of patterns are found in all kinds of folk music and the ways in which we think. Perhaps some of you are thinking of Balkan music, and if you've explored Adam Neely's channel at all, you can't avoid Balkan music. Or some of the new Sungazer stuff where they talk about fast, long, fast, fast, long, fast, long, fast, fast, long, or fast, 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 long, fast, 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 long, fast. So these are also ways of thinking about Euclidean rhythms, dividing up a number of subdivisions into what feels like an even, as evenly as possible, but while still keeping pulses on those subdivisions. Has that made sense? I think that's made sense. So let's now bring in a second sound so we can hear how these sounds might actually interact with each other. So now let's bring in a hi-hat, and we're going to put that on C#1. We're going to make sure that this is going out to C#1. Let's go, here we go, C#1. And we're going to turn off subdivision 1. We're going to turn on, hey, and so we have that same again, 16th. Let's bring this down. So let's turn on the Euclidean sequencer again, and let's make this, for instance, 5 and 3. Or even 5 and 2, then we'll get a short, long situation happening. And let's bring this division down to 8th notes so we can see exactly what's happening in connection with the kick drum. So when I now bring this kick drum back in, so the kick drum has a pattern that is 7 steps long, and it has 2 events happening inside those 7 steps. The hi-hat is a pattern that is 5 steps long, and it has 2 events happening inside those 5 steps. So we get these phasing patterns. And as you've seen, I've been exploring the idea of phasing patterns quite a lot on my channel recently. And so this is just another way of exploring that. Let's bring in one more sound on top. Clang. What does clang sound like? And let's make this D1. Come on, D1, please. There we go, D1. And let's turn these 2 off, and let's turn it on. Goodness me. And let's maybe make this a 6th note subdivision. And let's turn on the Euclidean sequencer, and let's make this, well, let's make it 6 and 4. So now this is going to be a polyrhythm against the kick drum. Let's just put these up so we can hear that when they're playing on. So now you hear, like when they are on every pulse, you can hear that sort of 3 against 2 polyrhythm. That's the 8th note here against the 6th note here. But now let's bring this down to here. So now we're using those same polyrhythm subdivisions, but we are not having events happening on every one of those events of the subdivisions. And so you can see how quite quickly a very simple idea actually really begins to generate really quite complex and beautiful patterns. So we're going to explore how to do this, what we can do with this melodically. So I'm going to delete that drum rack, and I'm going to bring in a brand new drum rack. And on this drum rack, instead of percussive sounds, I'm going to use some melodic sounds. So on the bottom, let's bring in an operator. Of course, I like operator. And immediately, so the way that the drum rack works is the MIDI signal comes in, and what it's spitting out from each of these will be a C3. So I'm going to use a MIDI pitch. I'm going to bring that down a couple of octaves. So that's now playing an E, a little bit below a C. I'm going to actually turn up the length here and a bit more release. And let's make this unison. Here we go. And let's actually make this a triangle wave so we get some overtones. What happens if I go down another octave? Ooh, that's quite nice. So our bass is now doing a sort of 7-step pattern, but it's being filled only every 2 of those patterns. So we get like this short, long, push-pull type feel. Let's have a listen to that with these drums. So you can hear how this bass, can you hear it? Let's turn up. You can hear how this bass is sort of rotating. So you can hear how this bass line is in a phasing rhythmic relationship with the 4/4 of the drums. Let's come back here. And let's explore this a bit more. Okay, so let's turn off that. Let's bring in another operator for here. Instruments operator. So that now that's spitting out the note C3. So we're going to make that into an E using this. We're going to go down an octave. So that's now playing an E, the same note, we're just an octave up. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to group that and add a layer, something like a muted piano I think would be quite nice. Let's go in samples, mute, piano. Is that going to be in here? No. Here we go. Yeah, let's bring you in here. Lovely. We're gonna need a bit more release than that. Let's make it a bit tighter. That's really nice. Now let's do something else with this. Let's make this play. Let's make this play some kind of a melody. So we're in. We're going to bring in a random MIDI random. MIDI random. Now we don't. I want the melody to be sort of a cycling 3-note thing. So let's make this already interval 2. Choices 3. And we're going to turn the chants up. Now it's just playing random notes, but that's because we're on random mode here. If we switch this to alt mode, now it cycles through its choices instead of randomly picking those choices. We're going to use a scale device. Of course, I could use Ableton's sort of global tuning thing in here, but a bit old school. Let's make this a Dorian thing. So let's drag this in here, and let's say we want E Dorian. So now we hear this 5-step pattern on this second sound. There are fills every 2 of those 5 steps, but it's cycling through a 3-note melody. So we get this constant evolution, this constant phasing. Yeah, I'm into this at the moment. Let's do a little bit more sound design on that. Let's add this a line delay on the end here. Let's make that sound a little bit. Actually, no, let's not do that. We're gonna do that on the next one. On the next one, right? Let's add another one. Let's do that again. In fact, I'm even just gonna duplicate that across. And let's put this up a fifth. So that's going to be, here we go. Now, because we have the scale device in here, it's going to keep everything in key. Let's make this, so we have a 6-note sequence with 4 fills, so let's make this 5 choices. So again, we get a cycling. I like this. I'm liking this. I'm liking this. Right. So on this one, I want to use the align delay. And let's do something maybe with this operator sound. Let's add just a little bit of release. A little bit of, yeah, copy from oscillator A. Yeah, this is nice. Again, I'm not doing too much sound designy stuff today. How does this all sound together? I'm going to put this on a 16th note. And let's change this. Let's make this. Fun. Okay. Now, let's add another operator in here. We're going to turn these off. Last operator. Of course, we need this to be going out through D sharp 1. Boom. And yeah, let's make this a really not do much at all. So let's say 17 steps and 3 events. Yeah, so we're going to make this sort of a sort of high. We want kind of a sawtooth. I'm actually going to bring a. So one thing I did see is that the length here we can only go up to 100 milliseconds. That's not long enough. I want more on this. So I'm going to use note length in here. Note length. This is all of a sudden quite loud. This is nice. Right, let's bring some random stuff happening in here. Let's already pitch it up, actually. So this is now a C. This is an E. Yeah, now let's bring in some randoming in here. And this one I am going to leave random. You know what? This is happening actually quite a lot. What happens if we make this 34? No, now it's feeling too regular. Let's bring it down to 17. Let's maybe make that 4. But yeah, let's bring this down to... Yeah, okay. Fun. Okay, we want some random happening in here. Goodness me. Right, after the random, we're going to need an E Dorian. Let's add a bit of randomness to the velocity on this. In fact, let's add a lot of randomness to the velocity on this. And let's really connect this filter to that velocity F. This is nice. Let's bring in some of these other ones again. Let's do some more sound designy stuff on that top sound, just a little bit, so we can get a nice. And I think a nice reverb. Don't hit. With some drums. Let's rename this. Let's just call it Melodic. Right. Let's do some Foley percussion stuff using this. So I'm going to bring in another rotating rhythmic generator. Aha, yes. Now I've noticed this is a little bit of a bug. Ableton heads up. When I drag a rotating rhythm generator into a project that is currently playing, it doesn't start playing. And even when I press stop and then play again, this doesn't start playing. I have to delete it, press stop on the project. So, whilst it was stopped, I dragged in a rotating rhythm generator and muted these other channels. That's what you missed. Okay, so I'm going to use a little drum instrument that I've made. Are you in here? Yeah, instruments, beats, Foley drum. Here we go. We're just going to drag you onto here. Let's turn some of these off. And let's explore what's happening and make some kind of pattern with this. So we're going to turn Euclid back on here. We're going to make you a 5-step 2 thing. Actually, let's make it 7 steps. And 3 events. Liking this. What are you doing? You need to be going out through here. Yeah, let's make this 7 steps with 2 events. And for this, I'm actually going to change the offset. So what this means is that the first event happening is not always on the first beat of the pattern. So that's going to make it sort of a little bit against what's happening. Actually, you know what? I'm going to make this 5. I'm going to make it 5. Now together with that one. Nice. Let's turn on number 3. You need to be going out through D1, and let's make this a polyrhythm thing. Here we go. And we're going to make this 3 and 2. I'm just randomly choosing numbers that I think are not going to have patterns that overlap so quickly. Let's bring you down a bit. Bring you down a bit. Bring this melodic one back in. And the drums. So, there you go. This is a little bit about Euclidean rhythms. Hopefully you got something from it. Hopefully you're exploring it. You can use this on Foley drums. You can use this on intense techno-related synths. All of these patterns that sort of unfold. If you want to explore more about it, I'll put a couple of links to some videos and the exceptional album by Bink Beats, where he explores all of this in a very meditative percussion way. Not only Euclidean rhythms, but then also using metric modulation, polyrhythm, just rhythm. A lot of meditative rhythm and counting on that album. I would love to hear what you're doing. Please send me videos, what you're doing. Tag me if you're posting on Instagram. Yeah, thank you for being here today. It's been awesome.